People aren't saving for retirement, and these assholes act surprised. Um, it's a strange situation that the working young adult demographic is currently in because for the last few years it's been despair and fear mongering coupled with an unending supply of distractions, madness in the news, catastrophe constantly, fear mongering from all sides. People are expected to embrace this chaos with an outlook that suggests that they'll someday retire. They're raising retirement ages. Jobs are becoming more difficult to find in the industries that were shilled to them the most. And they're saying this is alarming. It's alarming that people aren't saving for their retirements when they're having a hard time finding a job in the first place, let alone planning for a future that is by these same people who are saying they're surprised suggested to not be there. It suggested that this future is going to be a catastrophic cataclysm of unending pain. It's so stupid. Like if you tell people that the world is terrible and then you visit upon them record inflation and you heap on them unending amounts of catastrophe, they're not going to be optimistic towards the future. And this is the most sensible notion that could be explained in any any context which involves these factors. Nearly 41% of young adults perceive the economy's current condition as poor. To me, that's optimistic. That means sixty percent do not consider it poor. That's given the current state of events, that's reasonable to me. 55% of young adults are not planning to purchase a home because they're like $700,000. Like you can move somewhere where there are no job prospects for the careers that you have pushed them into, and yeah, maybe they'll be able to buy a home in the middle of the sticks for $150,000. Maybe. Very, very unlikely. But they're not going to be able to pay for it because they won't be able to find a job in the area. So they have to go to the area where the jobs are. And in the area the jobs are, well, if you don't want to commute for 2 hours a day, you're looking at probably $700,000. And why would they be planning to purchase a home? It makes infinitely more sense to them to try to make ends meet, to scrape by in a rental unit that is in some derelict part of town. It makes much more sense to the individual that is in that situation to do that. They confess they're not saving for retirement. It's hard to save for a future that you think will more or less not exist. I bet a lot of these people are just feeling despair, and it's hard for a person in despair to think of a rosy future, especially when you're looking at investment prospects that often turn out badly. When you're in this situation, instant gratification seems like not a borrowing, but an actual purchase. Instant gratification seems like you're making a purchase in a moment that you get to have immediately and keep forever. The memory of that instant gratification will be forever with you, and you can capture it and you can hold on to it, and it's not going to pay for your future, but your future is a bad back and bad knees. So exactly how is this alarming? It's alarming only because of the fact that it's not traditional. And in this particular economy, it seems that tradition really is a recipe for 40 years of suffering leading to more suffering or the potential for not suffering. And a lot of these people have seen have seen what happens to those that do make it to retirement. They see that, well, okay, so they're covered for retirement, but their quality of life isn't so great. Their mobility is limited. Their youthful vigor is evaporated, and they're able to live. But wouldn't the more sensible thing be to spend your youth and then just die when you get older? I know that's harsh, but in this situation where you don't get to have the best of both worlds, well, the world that you're in right now seems a better investment. And it's, I want to say, not true, but as somebody who lives in this sort of situation, it's hard to fault. It's hard to fault that mentality. Like if you can eke out a living and be somewhat comfortable in the moment, oh yeah, sure, you're going to fall asleep at night wondering about the catastrophe that will come later, but you just push those thoughts out of your head and say, you know what, tomorrow's going to be okay, and we're going to work through it, and we're going to do what we can, and we're going to be eternally optimistic about the degrading situation that we find ourselves in, where our nation is losing prestige, where wealth is being transferred away from us, where government seems to unendingly hunger for the the future that they are surprised we're not investing in. Like they're eating it. They print more money and they create inflationary uh, uh, inflationary games we all have to play in, which is another type of theft. Like if okay, so if I have saved, right? I've saved, okay? I have a significant amount of money saved. And I sit after I save that money and I say, okay, thank God I've saved that money. I have it. It'll be able to help me in the future. And then 5 years down the line, my money can buy half as much food. You have robbed from me. You have stolen from me. So you're wondering why these people don't invest. They can't invest in the things that appreciate. So I don't know. I mean, they can invest in things that appreciate, but to what degree and what level of compounding and how much of an actual effect that will have on their lives versus the arbitrary spending of that money, what effect that will have on a doomed perspective or on a doomed trajectory. I don't know. So, 34% of young adults maintain a side hustle. They're talking about inflation. Of course, they're talking about inflation. Inflation is absolutely nuts right now. They assert that cost is a primary factor when selecting a meal. I relate. I relate 100%. Uh, they're suffering from credit card debt. They're in delinquency. They're having trouble meeting financial obligations. This is not surprising. This is only alarming and surprising if you're not in a situation where this is your everyday grind. Like if this is not your everyday, then yeah, sure, it's alarming. But this is not surprising at all. It's absolutely silly that this article was written at all. Yeah, okay.